Hey everyone, Marathon Hurley here with the start of a new project, Final Fantasy for the PSP. There are a lot of versions of this game out there, but the reason I'm playing the PSP version as opposed to the PlayStation version is the PSP version has all of the extra side content that you can find in the advanced versions, and I believe in terms of just the overall content, the extra tracks in the game, musical tracks that is, Final Fantasy has the most, for the PSP has the most content. So I'm going to be playing Final Fantasy for the PSP. There's also some changes to the battle mechanics in this game which don't exist in the PlayStation version. So if you're playing that version, you won't be able to follow this guide, at least not as closely as you would if you were playing the advanced version. If you are playing the Game Boy Advance version, or maybe the iOS version, I'm not sure about how that works, but you should be able to follow this guide pretty closely. Now, I plan to do as much of the side content as humanly possible. That means all the side bosses, all the extra dungeons. The only dungeon that might be an exception is the Labyrinth of Time. I'll at least show off as much of it as I can, but it can be pretty tedious and annoying, so whether or not I can get through all of that we'll have to see when we get there. The other thing that I'm going to be doing in this Let's Play is I will be doing a level 11 class change run. And what that means, for those of you who have not played Final Fantasy before, as you can see on the left, we can choose from multiple classes. We have 6 total classes that we can choose from, but at a point in the game, you have the ability to upgrade your classes to a more powerful version. And there are some benefits that come from that. The biggest one being, for a couple of classes, they gain stats in a way that they didn't before. So 2 classes that couldn't use magic before gain the ability to use magic after this class change, and as a result, they start getting MP when they didn't before. So the earlier you class change, the better or the more MP you will gain. For other classes, particularly for one class in particular, the monk, the way they gain magic defense changes after the class change. So after the class change, they actually start gaining magic defense at a much higher rate, and that's going to be very important for what we plan to do with this playthrough. So those are the basics there. As you can see, the party I'm choosing here, I'm going with a thief, a monk, a white mage, and a black mage to start. There are any number of teams that you could choose to get through this game. I've seen tons of different party configurations, and I've read all the game facts on all of this and had people suggest this party is the best or that party is the best. But this is the party that I'm planning to go with, largely because, in my personal opinion, this is the team that can hit the hardest in the long run. It obviously has some deficiencies in the short term in terms of defense and whatnot, but I think in the long term this is the party, for me, that's going to work best. But you could easily pick any number of different parties to go with. You could choose a warrior in place of a monk. You could have a red mage instead of a black mage, and you'll be fine. I mean, regardless of what party you choose, you can beat this game. Obviously, some teams are going to have more challenges and more difficulties getting through the game than others. So if you choose a team of all black mages, you're probably going to have a hard time for most of the game, and I wouldn't recommend a team like that unless you're an expert. If you pick a team of all warriors, then you'll stomp most of the game, but you could run into some problems if you get into a tricky situation or two, or if you get some bad luck. So really, I mean, it all depends on your personal preference. I'm not going to suggest that this is in a vacuum the best team, but it's the team that I like the best for reasons that I'll explain more as we kind of go through the game. And so, I don't know if this is new. I haven't actually seen, I never played the original NES version. I don't know if that prophecy that they play at the beginning is new. Some of this is definitely new. I mean, that little crystal thing was definitely not in the NES version. But anyway, now we have control of our party. I didn't really mention why I named the characters the way I named them. It doesn't really matter per se. But the reason I picked these names is, well, largely because this represents my favorite Final Fantasies. I wanted to pick one character from each of those, so I have the Final Fantasy IX, my favorite Final Fantasy. You got Final Fantasy Tactics, Final Fantasy XII, and Final Fantasy IV. hopefully I'll be able to do a Let's Play of all those at some point, but for now we're focusing on Final Fantasy 1. And one quick thing I did as I was talking there is I increased the dialogue speed from 2 to 3 there. The dialogue speed is extremely slow. The initial dialogue speed is really slow, and it can be a pain trying to let it all play through here. And in those cases, and if I left it there, I would have to fight the temptation not to push X and speed things up, and I don't want to deal with that. So, yeah, this is the way to go. This is the way I'm going with it. Not super fast, but fast enough. But now we're talking to the king, and we're trying to convince him that we are the Warriors of Light, and the Chancellor, who is kind of being a jerk here. As many Chancellors in the games that we will be playing, the other games we'll be playing, yeah, but Chancellors in general are just terrible. But to prove our worth, we are going to have to help this guy rescue his daughter, and Garland, a knight who was in his service, has kidnapped her. And I guess we'll go ahead and help him out. I mean, why not, right? That is... Man, what kind of kingdom do you have if you only have one knight of any worth? Anyway, we're going to have to... So yeah, the reason why we need his help in the first place is that, I don't know if you could see it, we'll see it in a second. There's a bridge that was broken that would not allow us to progress beyond this continent. Now, how we ended up on this continent when the bridge was broken is beyond me, but we'll just kind of ignore that. Now, you could talk to some people here, but they don't really have anything to say, as most of the characters in this, most of the NPCs in this game don't have much to say. And there's really not much to explore at this point. There are some locked rooms, but we'll deal with that in a little bit. So, first thing we want to do before we head off to the Mystic Cave, and we want to give our characters, we want to upgrade our characters' abilities and equipment. So the way it works, for those of you who have not played Final Fantasy 1 before, to learn a spell, you have to actually go to a magic shop. And this is not super uncommon, but then you actually have to choose the character you want to teach the spell, and then teach it to them. So I'm going to go ahead and give my Black Mage Fire, Sleep, and Thunder. As you can see, you can only learn 3 spells. Now you can actually have a character forget a spell, so in case you pick 3 spells and you say, man, I really didn't want Thunder, I really want Focus instead, you could actually have your Black Mage unlearn Thunder and then teach them Focus, although you'll have to spend the money to do that. But Fire, Sleep, and Thunder are the spells that you want to pick here. You could really get by with just Thunder and Sleep if you want to, or even just Thunder if you really want to save money, but we'll have some ways of earning money in a little bit. Or at least I'll have a way of learning money in a little bit. At the very least, you want to get Thunder. Thunder and Sleep is ideal. And if you're like me and you're going to take advantage of a method to get some money later on, go ahead and pick up Fire as well. Then we want to walk over here, which is our white magic shop. And here I'm not going to buy quite as much stuff. I'm going to buy Cure for my white mage, and I'm also going to buy Protect. Now these other spells, Dia and Blink, are actually pretty useful. Dia does pretty good damage to undead foes, and Blink is useful for raising your own invasion. However, for Dia, we're not going to be fighting that many undead enemies because we're going to be avoiding most encounters anyway, so I don't see the point in buying that. And since I'm already spending a little extra money on spells for my Black Mage, I'm going to cut my White Mage off here. And with Blink, it's the same thing. I'd rather have Protect at this point, which I can cast on any character, as opposed to Blink, which I can only cast on myself. So, I'm not trying to be too cheap at this point, but you have to kind of you have to kind of make these decisions, because while we'll have some ways of getting money, we're not going to be able just to buy a ton of stuff. We're not going to have so much money where we can just buy a ton of stuff either. Now, in terms of weapons, I want to buy a pair of nunchucks for my monk. I want to buy a rapier for my thief there, and I want to buy a hammer for my white mage. And then going over to my armor shop here, I want to buy 1 pair of leather armor Even though it suggests that the armor is going to be good for the monk, I will explain very briefly why that's not the case. And I believe that's everything that I need at this point. So let's go ahead and head outside, and then I'll explain a few things about equipment, battle mechanics, and how this level 11 class change is going to work. So first things first, let's go ahead and optimize our character's equipment. We'll give him the nunchucks, and I'm actually going to remove his clothes, and look at what happens. His defense actually goes up along with his evasion. And the monk is a weird guy. He's actually designed not to have any equipment. And in the long term, he's not even designed to have weapons. So in the long term, we're basically going to have nothing equipped on him except a pair of gloves, which we don't have access to at this point. So his defense, for the most part, is going to be lagging along as a result because he's not designed to equip armor. And this is one of the reasons why we want to do the level 11 class change. And we want to get that class change early, is to allow him to gain the maximum amount of defense because he's not really designed to have that much equipment. But then we'll go ahead and optimize our other characters. And that's the reason I didn't buy a staff, because the white mage comes equipped with a staff. So once I give Pinello there my hammer, then I have a staff left over for Palom. So that's all there is about the equipment. Now, one thing I want to explain before we move on to the Chaos Shrine is a little bit about experience, why it's a level 11 class change run, and why I am fighting a battle here, even though I'm supposed to be minimizing experience. So the reason why it's called a level 11 class change run and not a level 1 class change run is that in this game there are some bosses that you're going to have to fight. You can't avoid certain bosses, and so in doing so, you're going to have to get experience. There's just no way that you can avoid getting experience in this game. And so if you only fight the battles that you need to fight, that is only the boss fights, you will be at level 11. So that's the minimum level that you can be, while also getting, that's minimum level you can be at by the time you get your class change. Now the reason I am fighting some random battles here, in spite of the fact that we are going for the minimum level here, is that just because we're going to be at that's not the best way to explain it is like this. But actually, it makes more sense to explain this after I get out of this battle. I should have jumped into the menu to explain why I want to do why I'm fighting enemies, even though this is a level 11 class change run. So let's go ahead and finish this battle up real quick. I think we might actually gain a level here. Nope, we're not. Okay. Anyway, let's jump into the status menu. Well, we were 1 experience away from gaining a level. So you can see it has our current total experience here. So every character currently has a total of 13 experience. And then it tells us how much we need to get to the next level. So once we hit 14 experience points, we will be at level 2, so on and so forth. So when you get to the end of this level 11 class change, or once you get to the end of the mandatory fights before you can class change, you'll be at level 11. However, you won't be in a position like we are right now, where you're at the maximum experience you could be for level 11. So you won't. So for instance, if you need 5,000 experience to be at level 11, once we're done fighting all the mandatory bosses, our experience will be well below 4,999. So there's a lot of room for us to gain some experience points and still be at level 11 once we hit our class change. And the reason where this becomes beneficial is that you need so little experience at the beginning of the game to gain levels. You can actually gain several levels at the beginning of the game and still hit level 11 in the long run, because the amount of experience you need goes up and the bosses won't give you so much experience to push you past level 11. Now, how far you can push this depends on how you want to handle the next little bit of the game. So there's a mini game that's going to come up in a little bit, hopefully at the end of this episode, if I can keep this episode at a reasonable length. There is a mini game you can play later on, which will allow you to win some items that can help you avoid a mini boss later in the game. If you play that mini game and get that item, then you can gain upwards of 755 experience for your characters, which I think will push you close to level 10 actually. It definitely will get you past level 6, level 7, and that will be a big boon to you early in the game. If you don't want to play that mini game, you can only gain about 155 experience, which is not that much, but it is enough to get you to level 4. So you can basically grind up to level 4 at this point in the game and still hit the level 11 class change. Now, I would recommend that if you want to do any level grinding before you do your level 11 class change run, now is the time to do it, simply because it's easier to keep track of experience now before you fight any bosses than later when you have to figure out, well, how much experience did I get before the boss? Am I on track? Etc. etc. I will put a guide in the video description which I used in my level in this class change run. But even then, it's just easier if you're going to do grinding to do it now as opposed to waiting until later. Now, I've already done some grinding off screen, so I'm going to switch to that file, and then I will be right back. Okay, I'm back. I did some grinding off screen. I have all of my characters at level 4. You can see the amount of experience that we have. We have 103 across the board. Like I said, you could gain another 50 experience even if you don't plan on playing the mini game later, but there's not much benefit to that, I don't think, and this gives you a little bit more wiggle room. I do plan on playing the mini game, so I could have gained more experience, but I wanted to show off, you know, for people who don't want to play that, how you could do this without dealing with that. And then, what else was there? I think there was one more thing I wanted to mention here. Oh, the reason why, you can see just in my stats how much of a difference those levels made. I mean, Zidane and Ramza are both above 100 HP. Pinello and Palom have a lot more MP than they did otherwise. I should point out that the stat gains you get could be or tend to be random, so you might not have the exact same HP, MP, etc. as I do at level 4. Don't worry about that. That's not something that we really need to worry about at this point. So, yeah, don't be concerned about that. One more thing, I forgot to remove my clothes from my monk here in this backup file. So I think that's everything. I have a little extra gil. I have the leftover equipment that I'll sell later on. And I think that's everything. And so having that extra MP really helps in terms of your survivability early in the game. Now at this point, from this point moving forward, I am going to be running from every single battle that I run into. So we're going to try fleeing here. Hopefully we get lucky and someone gets us out of here. Nope. There we go. Perfect. And so for now, I'm going to show that off on screen just because, well, I don't want to have to edit all this stuff out. But probably after I defeat Garland, I'm probably going to start editing these battles out. In which my strategy for dealing with this, and the easiest way to deal with trying to avoid encounters, is save often. I mean, I didn't do it here because these enemies are so weak, they can't really do much to me. But once we get beyond this region, we're gonna quickly find ourselves under-leveled for the enemies there. So even if we run away, they might get a hit or two on us, in which case, that would be pretty bad. So as you can see, I'm taking a few steps at a time. I'm actually pushing it a little bit further than I probably should. Then I save the game. Now, I'm not going to show all this off on screen, because again, I could see why that would be annoying. What I'm likely to do instead is I'm probably going to save after every random encounter that I run into, assuming that I don't get like completely wrecked in a given battle. So that's what I'm going to do, so that you don't have to see me saving and running away from battles on screen. So like I run into a random battle, then I run and save, then I'll come back and you'll see me then. So that's kind of my plan there. Hopefully that works out for you guys. And here we are. We're at the Chaos Shrine, so I'm going to save my game real quick before we go in there. I wouldn't show this off if it wasn't for the fact that it was kind of quick to save. But one thing I should point out about the PSP version, now that it's on my mind, as opposed to the PS1 version, is that you can save anywhere in this game. And I don't think that was true for the PS1 version or the Origins version. I know it wasn't true for the NES version, but you can save anywhere. I think in the PS1 version you could only save in on the world map or in like inns. If even that, I don't know if you could even save on the world map in that version. But yeah, in this version you can save anywhere, which makes the level 11 class change run way easier, because you can just save your game in front of, you know, a boss or whatnot, and then you'll be good to go. Alright, so Another thing that I should point out is if this is incorrect, please someone let me know. But I'm pretty sure in this game, when you run, you actually are more likely to run into encounters. So a big piece of advice I have for you who are attempting to do this: walk. Just walk everywhere. I mean, as you can see, I've only run into 2 battles here, so it's not that bad. And the school hits pretty hard. Hopefully I can get away. There we go. Yeah, so that's the concern about this level 11 class change run, is that even when you are able to get away from a battle, you might get hit or you might take a pretty bad smacking in the process. And that's why having the extra MP really helps here, because I can heal with Pinello upwards of, 11 times right now, which really helps, especially since I'm not spending money right now on potions or tents or anything like that. So, alright, with all that said, let's go ahead and take on Garland. Well, I don't... That seems pretty extreme. Giving up your entire kingdom for your daughter. I mean, I'm not saying he wouldn't do it, but people tend to really like power. I don't know if that was... Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he'd be so willing to give up his whole kingdom for his daughter. I mean, he sent complete strangers after her. He can't value her that much. Anyway, our first boss of the game is Garland, and unlike some of the earlier versions of this game, we actually have a dedicated boss theme, which is nice. I'm going to have my white mage there defend because, well, she can't hit very hard. So instead, I'm just going to go ahead and use magic and my physical attacks to take him on. Since we are at level 4, he's going to be pretty much a joke. If you decided not to do any grinding at all, he will be much harder. Not impossibly hard, but he can hit you fairly hard. And if he hits your black mage, given my current party setup, he could possibly knock him out in one shot, which would be no good. But yeah, not that difficult at level 4, especially with our black mage being able to hit much harder. So now that we've saved the princess, well, hopefully the king will finally rebuild that bridge for us. Now the nice thing about this little portion of the game is that once you save the princess, and we'll see in a second here, she'll let us walk back to the castle. Exactly. So now we don't have to walk all the way back, so we can avoid some encounters on the way. So that's nice. And now that we're here, they will finally rebuild the bridge for us. No problem. I mean, Garland wasn't that difficult, but okay. So now we have to hear this whole prophecy. I can't remember if they said this earlier, but yeah, basically the goal is we have to gather the 4 shards of light. And now this is one thing that this game does not... One thing that makes this game challenging for a lot of people is that they don't really tell you exactly where you need to go to do stuff. So, I mean, it helps that I have a guide and that I've played this game a bunch of times. But, yeah. What do you got for me, Sarah? A lute. I wonder what that could be used for. Well, we'll find out what that loot is useful for later. For now, though, let's just get out of here. Got stuff we need to do. Now, we didn't take too much damage in this battle, so I think we should be good without needing to rest up at the end there, because again, we're going to be running from every battle anyway. So, yeah. But first, we get to see a little scene where they're going to rebuild the bridge for us. So, yeah, and thankfully for us, they are not like most construction workers, and they actually get this done pretty quickly. That was not meant to be an actual... That wasn't meant to be an actual dig at construction workers. I don't want to offend anyone who might be watching this. I just happen to live in a city where they do construction, where it feels like they're doing construction all the time. I guess that's part of living in the Midwest. As soon as it gets warm, there has to be construction everywhere. Anyway, yep, the 4 Warriors of Light are in Cornelia. I might have been going through that dialogue a little too quickly, so I apologize. I'm going to go ahead and save my game here. Like I said, for now, I'm going to go ahead and show off running from battles. Just because I'm a little bit low on time, and I don't want to have to constantly reset, or I don't have to worry about editing and resetting things and whatnot. So hopefully we get lucky and don't have to run into too many battles, but if it starts to get out of control, maybe I'll start editing stuff out. But we get the classic Final Fantasy theme here as we get the prophecy. Now you could skip through this prophecy, but I'm not going to. I will show off all of this in its full effect. One other thing that I should point out / ask about is the aspect ratio for this video. I'm looking at the video now and I can see that there's a big black box surrounding my gameplay here. I don't know how much that is, to what extent I could avoid that. When I did my test video for Crimson Gem Saga, I set the aspect ratio to 16:9, but then it cut off some of the text when it was showing like the warning screen for the PSP. It didn't really seem to affect the gameplay at all, but I wasn't sure if it might become a problem later. So then for this video, I switched it to 4:3. I did that for my Arc the Lad test video / June channel update as well. So I don't know. You guys can let me know if this looks bad or not. I mean, I know having a black box surrounding the game is not ideal. I might try the next video at 16:9 to see what it looks like, but yeah, I also didn't want things to be blurry, and when I set it to 16:9, it did look a little bit blurry at times. So I don't know. It's hard to tell. The black box isn't the most attractive thing in the world, but I also don't want things to be cut off either. So you guys can let me know what you think. Final Fantasy 1 is not exactly the most graphically advanced game, so it's not as if you're missing a whole lot with it. But yeah, you guys can let me know what you think. And I think that's the full prophecy there. And is it just me, or did the screen go from, or did the background there go from being like dawn to dusk, or dusk to dawn or something? It definitely seemed like the time changed there. Alright, so where we want to go basically straight to the east here, and then we're going to want to drop down in a little bit once the continent opens up here. And it's about at this point where the enemies start becoming a little bit more difficult. I mean, nothing too difficult, but you do want to keep an eye on your health. Starting now, make sure you don't walk around with like health that's really low, because enemies will be powerful enough to mess you up if you aren't careful. Not these guys, obviously. These guys are pathetic, but in general, you just want to be a little bit more careful. And this is where having a thief is useful, because they have really high agility and they'll have a chance to run pretty easily there. So now that we're here, this is Provoca. This is the next town that we want to visit. Before I move on, I'm going to go ahead and equip the leather cap that I picked up from Garland here. And then, let's see, I want to head to the magic shop. In particular, I want to go to the black magic shop, and there's one spell in particular that I want to pick up. You definitely want to pick up Temper. You could also pick up Blizzard if you want. And I will probably do that. I might do that off screen. I want to make sure I have enough money to get the basics of what I need at this point. And then our white magic shop here. At this point, I wouldn't buy any of this stuff. You don't really need it. The only thing that you might want is Silence if you don't plan on playing the minigame I'm going to show off here in a second. Null Shock and Invis will be useful later, but we just don't have the money to buy all of that stuff. So, at least not right now. And if I buy more stuff, I'll show it off in the next episode. But for now, make sure at least you get Temper. If you're not going to play this minigame in a little bit, go ahead and pick up Silence for your white mage as well. You want to pick up a Scimitar for your, I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but you want to pick that up for your thief. And then let's head over to the armor shop. I can't remember if I need to buy anything here, but let's go ahead and check it out. That's the item shop. Wait, did I miss my armor shop? No, it's right here. Okay. Nope, we don't want to pick that up. Yeah, so we do want to pick up leather gloves. That's the last thing we want. And we want to pick up 3 pairs of leather gloves. As you'll see, for Ramza, if I equip the leather gloves on him, all it does is lower his evasion. Now, later in the game, we will get gloves that are actually useful and have nice effects for us. So we will want to equip those even though it will hurt his defense. But not right now. So pick up leather gloves for your other 3 characters. And I think that is everything. So, as you can see, we were kind of running low on money there, which is why I didn't want to buy too many spells. But you could pick up Blizzard at this point if you want. So now to continue with the story, what we need to do is take on this guy right here. So you just talk to him, he mentions that he's a pirate, and then he's going to send his little pirate goons after us. And yeah, this is our next forced boss battle, or forced encounter, boss battle, whatever. But they aren't very tough at all. All we're going to do is just attack them basically, and they'll go down like nothing. I'm going to have Penelo defend still because she's not very powerful. Now, the way you avoid having these guys gang up on you, because if they all gang up on you, they can't hit pretty hard, is you just want to cast sleep on them. And that'll prevent, they are susceptible to sleep. Right now, we're not getting our turn very quickly, which is unfortunate. Usually when I play this, I don't have any problem getting sleep off pretty early. But yeah, you use sleep, you'll knock out almost all of them in this case. But you'll be able to knock out most of them, no problem. And now that they're asleep, we will take them out one at a time. We just want to make sure that we take out that thief in the back there, because he's the only one that's awake right now. But from here, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, these guys don't have much HP, so they go down in one hit. Let's have her defend, and then let's show off Thunder, show off a different spell here. And yeah, this boss battle will be pretty easy. And we're actually going to get a fair bit of money here, so even if you don't want to play this mini game, it wouldn't hurt to go ahead and spend some money, or use some of this money that we're going to get to buy some more spells if you want. But I probably wouldn't still, just because you're going to want that money for more spells later, and especially if you're not going to play this mini game. Yeah, so that didn't work out too well for you, buddy. Alright. Well, I mean, if you're going to give me a ship, I guess I can forgive you. So now we have a loot, and we have a ship. And this is how we're going to get off of this continent, because there are no crystals on this continent. So, there's one more thing I want to show off before I end this episode here. And that is the mini game that I've been mentioning all episodes. So before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and save my game here. And then, yeah, we'll jump into the ship and I'll show off the mini game. So the way you activate this mini game is you jump in the ship, you press the X button down, and then you have to push the circle button while the X button is held down 22 times. So there we go. And the mini game is called the 15 puzzle. So we're going to play this game. The reason you want to play this mini game is that you can win a lot of prizes doing so, and those prizes are going to be crucial for making this level 11 class change run manageable for a variety of reasons. So I'm going to play this game twice. I'm going to play it once, and I'm going to go through it very slowly and show off how I beat this puzzle, or the way I beat it. And then I'm going to do it as fast as possible to show off how quickly you can do it once you get used to it. I'm not going to say that this is the fastest way of doing it. It's just the way that I've become used to doing it, and so you might have a way that's faster. If so, have at it. But for those of you who hate puzzles and are dying or who can't stand the thought of doing this, I think this is a pretty easy way of going about doing it. So let's jump in and do it pretty slowly. So the goal of this game is to get all these numbers, you can see they're jumbled up here, in order starting from the upper left, going in order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so on and so forth. As you can see, the 15 is already in the correct position, which is why it's highlighted in red. So, how are we going to beat this puzzle? The easiest way to do it, in my view, is to, well, let's just start row by row. So our first row, we want to get 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So the easiest thing to do is just to move my 1 piece at a time. Just moving the pieces that I need to get my 1 there. I mean, for the first row, it's pretty straightforward. Same thing with the 2. As you can see here, I just kind of create a path for my 2 to move through until it's in position. And then we're going to do the same thing for my 3. I'm going to clear a pathway, move it into position there. Now, this is where it gets a little bit more challenging because as you can see, my 4 is there, but what happens if I try to clear a pathway for it? Well, now the 3 is out of whack, right? And now I'm just kind of moving them in a cycle, right? So that's not going to work. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to open up the space underneath the 1, pull the 1, 2, 3 over to the left, then I can move the 4 into position, pull the 9 and 12 out of the way, and now I have my row complete. So pretty straightforward there. And then from here, the next row operates the exact same as the first row. So I'm just going to clear a pathway for the 5, the 6, and the 7, move them into position. You know, this might not be the most efficient way of doing that, but it gets the job done. So now once the 7 is positioned, I'm going to move the 8 underneath the spot where it needs to be, clear out the spot underneath the 5, pull the 5, 6, 7 over, pull the 8 up, and then pull the 5, 6, 7 back into position. So the first 2 rows are pretty straightforward there. The bottom 2 rows operate in a slightly different fashion. Now the 9 is pretty straightforward. I mean, there are a number of ways you can do this. This might not be the fastest way, but you can just rotate the numbers around until you get the 9 into position. Now, what you do next depends on where the 10 is. In this case, the 10 is in a really nice position, so I can just pull it over. But I'm actually going to mix this up a little bit so I can show you what happens when you get kind of in a tough position here. So let's say, I don't know if I can even do it here actually. Let's see if I can move this 10 into a less desirable position. No, I don't know if I can do that. It's going to take more work to try to do that. So I'm just going to pretend, let's pretend for instance that the 12 there was the 10. Well here, I can't get it up into this spot because, as you can see, it's blocked off. So what do I do here? Well, in that case, I move the 10, again, pretend the 12 is the 10 here, over underneath the position where it needs to be, move the 9 down, pull the 12 up, then, wait, I didn't do that right. I'm going to pull the 9 down, then, no, yes, right. I'm going to pull this is my 10, let's back up here and do that again. Sorry about that, guys. So, let's pretend my 12 is the 10. What I'm going to do here is move the 12/10 underneath the position where it needs to be. Move the 9 down. Move the spot over there. Then, I'm going to bring the 12 up, or the 10 up, and then rotate it like this. So now you can see it's no longer in the undesirable position. And in fact, in doing so, I've actually screwed it up and put my 10 in the bad position. So now I can show this off for real here. So my 9 and 10 are in, my 10 is in the bad position here. Move it over, bring the 9 down, bring the tile above where the 10 needs to be over, then rotate it like this. So now the 10 is in a good spot, and I can actually rotate my spots to put my 10 there. So now I need to get the 11 in position here. In this case, it's pretty straightforward because I can just rotate it over like that. However, had it been in a poor position, and I actually don't want to do that because I don't want to finish the game here yet. If it had been in a bad position, what I could have done is brought the 9 and 10 down like I did with the 8 and 4 before, and then rotate the 11 so that it's in position like so. Then from here, I can just rotate the numbers that I have up here until I get the 12 in the right spot. So now that I have my 9, 10, 11, and 12 in the right position, or in order there, now I have to reorganize my 13, 14, and 15. Well, the way you do that is by spreading them out so that my 9 and 10 are to the left, 11 and 12 are to the right, and then I basically rotate it until I have my 13, 14, and 15 in the right order. So from here, I've got the game won because I slide my 9 and 10 into position, bring the 13, 14, 15 into position, and then bring the 11 and 12 up into position there. So, took a while to explain this, but that's how you win this game. And you can see over to the right there, we have 3 best times. I didn't beat any of those times, but I still get a prize. I get a potion. You can also win other prizes like 100 gil, ethers, etc. for not beating any of the times. But the reason we want to play this game is for the prizes that you can get for getting the third best time. In doing so, you can get a number of items such as Red Fangs, Blue Fangs, and White Fangs, which cast Fira, Blazara, and Thundara, respectively. Or Fyra, not Fira, but Fyra. You can also get curtain items, blue, white, and red as well, which cast Null Frost, Null Shock, and Null Blaze, which we're going to need for our defense. You can also win an emergency exit, which we'll need to avoid a boss later. You can also win a Cockatrice Claw, which we will also need for defeating a boss later. So I'll put in the video description all the items you need to win. You can also find those items in the level 11 class change guide, which I will also provide a link for in the video description. So having done all this, what I want to do now is show off how you can, I want to do this in a faster fashion, so you can see how that works there. And then I'm going to explain some things about how you can maximize the amount of items you can win from the third place prize. Alright, so this is going to be a little bit faster. I'm not going to do this perfectly because I never do, but hopefully this shows off the basic method here. As you can see, I mean, trying to talk while doing this definitely adds a different level of difficulty here. So I'm going to bring my 4 over there, then bring the 1, 2, 3 over, bring the 4 in. But hopefully you guys can get the, hopefully this kind of makes sense here. So you can see the first 2 rows, the numbers there are pretty straightforward. You just keep moving tiles until you get them into position. Then for the last number on those rows, what you got to do is bring the number underneath the tile, clear out the space to the far left, bring the number in, then you can clear it out. Then we can bring the 9 in just by rotating it there. In this case, the 10 is already in a good spot, so I can just rotate it like that. Bring the 11 in. Now, to get the 12 in, I'm going to clear out. I'm going to bring the 9, 10, 11, drag it over to the left there. Now I got my 9, 11, and 12 in order. Then bring the 11 and 12 back. Clear out the space in the middle there. Rotate it until I've got my numbers in place. And you can see we have the game won. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and finish it now. And the reason for this is that if I finished it now, let's say I finished it at 120, that would become the third best time. So to get more third place prizes, I would have to beat 120. And obviously that would become increasingly difficult, especially given the number of items that I want to win. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit on this tile until the very last second, until it hits 159. Then I'm going to win. I'll still get third place, but then I can play the game again, get third place fairly easily, and win more prizes. And this way, I can win as many prizes as possible because the prizes are random, and it will take you some time to get all the prizes you need. So you're going to want to play this game quite a bit to get that. So there we go. I finished in 159.65. That's the new third place time. So I can do this again pretty easily there. And for winning, I get a blue curtain and some echo grass. So you can actually win 2 prizes. The first slot is the only one where you can get the good items that we want. But the second slot will give you some useful items like antidotes, potions, ethers, phoenix downs. Items that would otherwise be expensive to purchase. So that's pretty nice there. We'll go ahead and exit as well. But this is where you can get some money too, because you can win 100 gil as a prize. You'll also win a lot of phoenix downs and other things that you can sell for some extra cash if you need it. So yeah, that's basically it. So I'm going to go ahead and win all those prizes off screen. Then when I come back, we will take the ship and we'll go exploring. Until then, this has been Marathon Hurdler. I want to thank you as always for checking out my videos, and hopefully I will see you next time.